The kind folks over at Alpha Model have sent out a couple of new kits for me to review and also build on the channel. The first one is the Mercedes-Benz C63 AMG Black Series, specifically the W204 model range. And the new box is now orange. The older ones were blue. Not really sure which one I prefer. The box is the same, the color is different, but the content should be at least as interesting as previous ones. So let's take it all out of the box, take a quick glance, and then go over them in a bit more detail. So these kits are not incredibly complicated, but they are very detailed. Not an insane amount of big usual parts like you see in a plastic model kit, but it has a ton of photo etch pieces here and there. So the instructions are quite simple and easy to follow. It just takes a bit of a closer eye for some of these smaller detailed pieces that aren't really shown all that well. One of the things that I've seen them do recently is add a ton more carbon fiber, and specifically pre-cut or pre-templated carbon fiber that specifically fits to all of the parts. So that saves a ton of time, is really easy to apply, but adds a ton of detail and realism to a build. So I'm really happy to see this more and more. Let's start off at the usual place, and that is the chassis. It is a curbside kit, not really going to delve into that too much. If they do add engines, the kits become even more expensive, and some of you guys already think they are expensive, so let's just keep it simple. Let's just keep it a nice display model. They have added some details to the chassis, but since most of this will be hidden like that, they didn't spend too much time making every single component a separate piece. Instead, just one big piece with a little bit of detail on top, more than enough for me. And a lot of cost saving has been done there to make it more accessible for more people. Some of the parts that are separated are the wheel hubs and also the muffler bits for the exhaust, and that's pretty much it. Now, along with that, we also have the disc brakes. This is just a resin center part with some photo etch pieces to go on top of it to detail it even further. And also the calipers are molded separately, which it makes it a lot easier to paint. Also gives them a bit more dimension and realism. And in general, they just look really nice. For the wheels, they decided to go with the original AMG wheel, of course. It has a nice molded-in logo for Mercedes on the center, and also some bits on the sides for the AMG inscriptions to go on. The lug nuts are also molded in. Everything looks nice and crisp. A little bit of cleanup required, but nothing major. And around it, a rubber tire. Nice and flexible, nicely detailed on the tread. It doesn't have any detailing on the sidewall, but pretty much none of the tires have it on the Alpha Model kits. Probably something to do with copyright infringement, but that's probably the same for the rest of the kit. So not really sure why they didn't do it on the sidewall of the tire. It does add a lot more realism and gives it a better look. So maybe I'll just print some of my own tires to fit these wheels with some detail on the sidewall. Moving on up from the chassis to the interior, the main base plate has a bit of detail already pre-molded in, as it's mainly just going to be painted black for the rear seat delete, the parcel shelf, the center console bits, pretty much all black. It does have some components missing for the shifter, the on-off button, the armrest, and some other stuff here and there, but those are all, of course, separate. just to make it easier to paint. And if you want to have them in a contrasting color, it's a lot easier to do so. So it's a nice bit of work they put into it to make it more accessible to more builders and cleaner to build without having to do some complicated masking or having very steady hands for some of those detail brushing bits. Now there are a ton of bits for the dashboard, the steering wheel, some buttons, some vents, even a roll cage, even more bits for the steering wheel, and other stuff all around. So it's a lot of fun to build this one. The door panels are quite plain Jane. It does have a couple of small bits missing here and there, but those are mostly just the parts that need to be painted in a different color. Otherwise, this will pretty much go straight black. A detailed bit right here for the door handle and some door trim will go in carbon fiber, some speaker grills and meshes that need to be glued on top from photo etch. Then for the dashboard, it's a bit of a similar but different story. The main dashboard component is all molded in one. Then the radio bit is missing, the vents, some trim, more vents, the steering column, and a couple bits all around. But those, of course, will be added separately and are nice and cleanly molded and should slot into place really easily. Now specifically, again, just to make it easier to paint, these will probably have to be a different tone or sheen of black. Same goes for all the other bits all around. It just makes it a ton easier. It gives you a cleaner build in the end. There's a couple more major components that are really nicely replicated in this kit. You had the option when ordering this car to go with a roll cage and a race style bucket seat, or just to go for a comfort seat. But I believe in that case, if you went for the comfort seat, it also had a rear bench seat, which in this case, the kit does not, and it also is not added as a separate option. So you're pretty much stuck with a racing bucket and a roll cage, or a rear seat delete with a comfort seat. But in any case, even though these are really nice seats, it's good to have. These are going into the spare parts bin. And of course, I will be adding these, the nice race buckets with a carbon fiber back or something that sort, and also adding a roll cage. Now I'm going to go for a bit of a custom design, going for a nice and dark exterior color and adding some brighter colors to the brake calipers and also matching that with the roll cage. So look forward to that in the video. In order to detail the exterior, there is a ton more parts and sprues available all over the place. And in general, the detailing just the same as all the other bits, nice, crisp, clean, and well thought out work. For the rear diffuser, the exhaust tips are molded in a separate sprue with some separate pieces. You can go for a gloss black look, or even paint them chrome or silver or any other finish you'd like, and you don't have to mess around with the rest of the diffuser. Same goes for the small center bit down there. And I believe you can fully kit this one out in carbon fiber with the supplied and pre-templated decals. Some other bits around the exterior to make it easier. If you wanted to, you can paint the door handles in a contrasting color, along with the side mirrors, that is. And if you don't, then you can just paint them in the same color as the exterior. The grille is also a separate piece, and it is also completely hollow from the back. There is a photo etch mesh piece that goes right behind here just to give it a bit more depth, and also makes it a lot easier to add more detail. Well, add more detail, not specifically. The detail is already included in the kit, but it is nice to see. This just gives it a lot better of a look. Then the rear spoiler. I believe this is the same package as the interior roll cage and seats. And maybe you could also order this on the comfort spec, but if you want to go for a comfort spec, then you're probably not going to be adding a wing or canards to the front bumper. And if you're going for the race spec, even though it's still a street car, then you will add a spoiler. Now the spoiler is included, has the uprights, has the spoiler, nicely detailed, a incredibly thin casting for the feet of the or the spoiler uprights to go in there, but I believe it should just about be fine, but it's on the edge of a hole. The taillight and headlight buckets also included, nice crisp separate parts, makes it easy to paint the rear ones in a bright silver and the front ones in a multitude of colors, and also a bit of space for additional details and separate parts to go into them. Now, for some reason, I'm not sure if this is agreed upon by some of the rest of you, I really hate it when the window wipers are included in the photo etch sheet and not as a 3D piece. Luckily, Alpha Model agreed, or at least on this kit they agreed, and cast and molded some three-dimensional parts, which makes it a lot easier, a lot less fiddly, and in my opinion a bit more realistic too. So I love these, and if they are included in the photo etch sheet, which I will look at later, I'm not going to be using those. There is a tiny additional bag of parts included too, with a variety of bits. Some for the clear parts on the head and taillights. These are cast resin instead of the flat cut sheet of clear plastic. This has a name, I forgot the name, doesn't matter. Normally, or on many of the Alpha Model kits, they are included on this, which is not really all that great. The parts are incredibly small and need a bit of a curve and some other forms to go on, and it's a lot easier to have them cast in a clear resin. Now there are some mirrors included. I believe this is a trim bit for the interior, which they probably forgot on some of the other components, but luckily they just printed it out and added it anyway. So while we're on the subject of clear parts, for the main clear parts, side windows, rear window, front window, pre-painted edges, nice and crisp, a nice thick black line on the edge too, and also the rear heated elements are included as well, making it nicely detailed and a lot more realistic. There are some photo etch bits which I talked about earlier, a couple of the emblems which I will probably not be using, as these are incredibly hard to stick on, and they also have them in a metal transfer sticker, so nice to have these, but too hard to put on. Better to have these, easier to put on, and looks nice and realistic too. Then for some of the other major components like the brakes, they have the slotted and vented discs, a couple of meshes and grills for the exterior, and also the speaker grills for the interior, and some nice license plates too. Not sure if I'm going to be using those, as I kind of like the clean look, but then again, these look pretty nice and give it a sort of showroom license plate look, which is cool to see as well. Some more bits for the disc brakes to add a detail to those center bits. Also some side mirrors, but again, included here, so won't really be using those. And some blank plates for the license plates too. And then almost finally, but not finally, the decals. It has a nice small sheet for some interior and exterior detailing on the emblems, the steering wheel, even some bits for the sort of navigation screen with a, I believe, small Nürburgring in there, some gauges, some Mercedes logos, buttons for the steering wheel, additional C63, 6.3 and AMG badges all around, and also for the calipers, white and black options. And then the decal sheet that I've talked about most, the one with the pre-cut carbon fiber. Lovely carbon fiber pattern and color, and also pre-cut, so really easy to use. Excited to put all of these on, as it really finishes off the model nicely. And now for the actual final part, the one that most of you probably have skipped forward to, the bodywork. It is molded mostly in one, apart from the additional detail bits, but when I mean molded in one, front bumper, side skirts, rear bumper, all molded on. Nice, clean, crisp, as you've probably been used to by now from Alpha Model. Has some detailing on the inside for the headliner, which finishes that off really nicely. The ABC pillars all nice and thick. Has a small edge for the clear parts to be glued into, and all of the panel lines look really, really nice as well. So they probably won't really need all that much scribing, but potentially I'm still going to be doing a bit more of it, as it just makes them a bit deeper, a bit more realistic, and gives them a bit more of a 3D effect. And if you're going to go for a clear coat and you're not going to be scribing these out, and you are on the heavy side like I am with the clear, then these could easily drown. But luckily they are nice pronounced already, so the scribing won't be really hard and it won't really be needing all that much.